Breaking news, we have new leaked cameras from Sony and Fuji, including photos. And I have the full specs of the Mavic 4 Pro, so I'm going to tell you if you should upgrade from the DJI Mavic 3 Pro drone. And I'm going to cover the latest in tariffs, which include a lot of price increases. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace.com/Tony is where you start when you have a new project, a new business, or you want to find new customers for an existing business. Squarespace is the perfect place for any web presence. Choose from beautiful templates, show off your work, sell products, take appointments from clients. If you can imagine it, you can do it at squarespace.com/Tony. Try it out completely free, no credit card. When you love it, the coupon code Tony will save you 10%. Thanks, Squarespace. Our top story is a new Fuji camera that we've covered before, but now we have more detailed pictures. This comes to us via FujiRumors.com. This is a half-frame vertical camera with a 1-inch 20-megapixel sensor. And here you can see Fuji Rumors has sort of overlaid where the sensor would go on Fuji's own teaser image of the camera. And here are two spy pictures. To me, it looks like one has that graphite color that some of the Fuji cameras come in, and that would definitely be my favorite. Or if you're boring, you can get it in plain old black. You can see the specs of the lens here. It's 10mm f2.8, but I'll tell you what that really means in a second. And you can also see that it's a proper rangefinder. That means an optical viewfinder that does not look through the lens like a DSLR, rather like an old school film camera. I like this experience because it doesn't bump into your nose when you hold it up to your eye, and it doesn't have the distractions of a digital interface. It does have a small vertical screen on the back, so you can review your pictures. And you can see it has a hot shoe, so it could take flashes. But I also think if you look closely here, that looks a lot like a film winder. Maybe they're doing what Leica did on my M10D, which is to just give us a thumb rest that looks like a film winder so that it has that sort of retro film look. And people are like, oh, are you shooting a film camera? You're so fancy and artsy. Here's some leaked specs on the size of it, and it has an antenna, so you can see it's not that primitive. It has Wi-Fi. Let's talk about the pictures this camera can take from the lens specs. I did the math for you, and if it really does have a 1-inch sensor, then the lens itself is 35mm equivalent 29mm f7.5. That means it will produce pictures with the same amount of total light gathering and thus the same amount of noise as a full frame camera at almost f8 and 29mm. Same amount of depth of field too. Now, that's not great. And for comparison, everybody's modern iPhone, the main 24mm lens is full frame equivalent to 24mm f6.3. And yeah, I'm accommodating the crop factor into the aperture so we can tell how much natural depth of field and how much light gathering that is. That means that your iPhone's main camera here gathers more light than this camera will. And it has the power of computational photography to stack images and reduce the noise further, or to add artificial blur, which looks pretty good nowadays. It also has 3 lenses, so you can go super wide or telephoto. So right away, if you care about image quality, this camera is a real hard sell. You're almost certainly going to be better off with your iPhone, but there are lots of reasons to get a cool little camera like that and not to use your phone. Like first, it's not a phone. If you take pictures with your phone, you get notifications popping up. Also, I find the color on phones is really bad, whereas Fuji cameras have very nice color, and it will probably have color simulations. Also, the experience is going to be better with the camera. Like it's a real rangefinder camera. You're not looking at a screen. You're looking at the real world. And I like that experience. I also like manual controls. Like it has an aperture ring on the lens and an exposure compensation dial. I do wish that it had a proper ISO and shutter speed dial. I like all those analog. More dials is more better, right? And the styling. Having a camera like this around your neck says something about you. Certainly it conveys something different to who you're taking a picture of than if you're just holding up your phone, right? People do behave differently depending on the camera that you point at them, and that makes a difference in your photos. Now, the original rumor said this would be $700 in US dollars, but that was before the tariffs. This camera is made in China, and so today, could change. Today, that's subject to 145% tariffs. Those tariffs would be applied against whatever the wholesale price would be, which is probably closer to like $500. Keep in mind, this has the lens built in, so they're not going to be able to use it like a loss leader and sell some lenses later, so they need to make a profit on every one of these. I'm actually feeling like it would have to be closer to $1,500. And that's going to be an impossible sale for a fixed lens, prime lens camera that doesn't necessarily produce better images than your smartphone would. So I do think this is going to be a really hard sell, but we'll see when it launches on May 22nd. Now let's talk again about the tariffs. Every week there are some updates as camera manufacturers finally catch up to these wild 10% tariffs worldwide or 145% tariffs for items coming out of China. A Reddit user pre-ordered the Air 3S accessory kit directly from DJI, and they canceled his order and specifically said that it was because of the shipping courier's limitations. These new tariffs have kicked in and they now apply to what they call de minimis shipments, which are the little Alibaba packages under $800. Those didn't used to have any tariffs at all. And now they're going to have some pretty extreme tariffs. So now people, even if they pre-ordered, aren't getting their stuff. And I think this is the new normal. If you look at Camp Snap's website, they make little inexpensive cameras. They're saying they can't get new inventory because of the newly imposed tariffs. Now, I think they're a Canadian company. I know the president is from Canada. Shouldn't impact them, right? Except that a lot of shipping to Canada comes in through the United States. And even if it were to arrive in the United States, they would still have tariffs applied. Poor Canadians, right? In related news, Leica is raising prices, not just in the United States, but also in Canada for the reasons I just described. Because all their products get shipped in through the United States before going to Canada. Now, this was never a problem in the past, and maybe soon they'll be able to figure out different shipping avenues that don't go through the United States. And tariffs are moving faster than companies can adapt. And so right now, both US and Canada are seeing a lot of price increases. A Chinese astronomical and scientific camera company called QHYCCD has declared that they're not selling to any US addresses right now. Tamron and Canon both had their financial announcements, their quarterly financial results, and they both discussed tariffs causing a negative response for them. Here you can see Tamron's breakdown of where their products are made and thus the amount of tariff applied to those products and how much of that is going to the US. So they break down that the impact on the operating income for 2025 is going to be 430 million yen for them. Pretty big deal. Here's what Canon had to say in their quarterly report. We will raise prices and are in the process of estimating the timing and the amount of the increase. Some companies have already raised prices, like the excellent Sony 400 to 800 wildlife zoom that we reviewed. We reviewed it based on the price we were given of $28.99 USD. They're selling it for $35.59. And that number definitely would have impacted our review. I don't blame Sony, but we factor the price in. Of course we do when we review products, and now it's negative 24% off. Try to give that a positive spin. The DJI Pocket 3, which we use all the time. I've owned two of them because I broke one and I immediately had to replace it because they're so good for travel video. Now it is negative 54% off. The price has gone from $519 to $799 in the US, but also you can't get it. Leica is offering a negative 74% discount, raising their price from $1,595 to $2,790 on the Leica Deluxe 8. That's a huge price increase. Now, some of you might be saying this doesn't add up with the amount of tariffs. After all, this Sony 400 to 800 is probably made in Japan, which would give it a 10% tariff. So why is it up 24%? I don't know. But I know if you give companies an excuse to raise prices, they will. It doesn't necessarily have to be the impact from tariffs. Companies will be greedy. When COVID was here, prices went way up. Inflation skyrocketed, and so did corporate profits. They weren't simply maintaining their profits and raising prices only when they needed to. They raised their prices a little bit extra because they could blame COVID and people couldn't be mad. So we might be seeing some of that. We might be seeing companies raising prices and then just being like, these are the Trump tariffs. Like, don't look at me. What am I going to do? Now let's talk about the DJI Mavic 4. We keep getting more and more information leaked, and now the entire spreadsheet indexing all the features compared to the lower end 3S and Mini 4 Pro are right here that you can look at. But this is not actually what I care about because I fly the DJI Mavic 3 Pro, and I'm wondering, should I upgrade? So I'm comparing the features side by side. The Mavic 3 Pro, the main wide-angle camera is a 20 megapixel at 24 millimeters. The new camera, they're quoting 100 megapixels. So to me, that probably means it's a 25 megapixel sensor with a quad bear, like each pixel split into 4. We've tested a lot of these quad bear sensors, and they do improve the detail by just a tiny amount, but not nearly by a factor of 4, maybe by a factor of 10 or 15%. So that's why I put the 100 megapixels in quotes. So expect a little more detail out of the images, at least still images. The medium 70mm lens seems to be the same, and the telephoto lens also gets the quad bear treatment, which at that range with that lens quality might increase detail just a slight amount, but the telephoto lens, you're typically photographing things so far away from the air that just the air itself, the atmosphere, means you're not going to get a huge amount of detail out of it. That's my experience, but I do like having that lens. They're upping the video specs a little, not going to blow you away. Going from 5.1K at 50 frames per second to 6K at 60 frames per second. It still supports 4K at 120 frames per second. They go a little bit faster. Now, instead of 47 miles per hour, which is fast, it'll go 56 miles an hour. It'll make it a little bit easier to keep up with fast boats and cars that I regularly track when we're filming. There are definitely times when I wish my Mavic 3 would go a little quicker, and that extra 9 miles per hour would help me keep up with those tracking shots. The battery life is up a little bit from what they call 43 minutes to 51 minutes. Both those numbers are meaningless because my experience is when they get to about 30% left, it's going to insist on flying home, because as the battery power drops, the drone becomes much less powerful. And if it fails, it's not like your camera dying on you. If it fails, it could drop and hurt somebody, or you might never be able to retrieve it. So it's really important to get it back before the battery dies, so you never get actual life out of it like that. And the range seems to have doubled from 15 kilometers, 9.3 miles, to 30 kilometers, 18.6 miles. That's an outrageous range, especially most places require you to have line of sight to your drone. So this is maybe not a legal thing to use, but stronger signal does mean you're less likely to get interruptions when you are filming something, because I've definitely been filming something and kind of gone behind a building and had the signal break, and at that point you'd have to physically move yourself to get line of sight with the drone to get your signal back. So I always like to have better signal just for such emergencies. Sony Alpha Rumors is saying there's a new Sony camera coming, and it's going to be an update to the FX3. The FX3a now has a 1024 by 768 screen, upgraded from 800 by 600, and a proper USB-C port. In the comments down below, let me know what you think of all of this, and don't forget to check out our sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace.com/Tony is the best place to start when you want to show off your work, your photos, your video. When you want to start a business or tell the world about a personal project. It's so much better than social media because you really control it. You can pick a beautiful template. There's no ads, okay? You can choose the fonts, your colors, set up a store, take appointments from clients, whatever you can imagine. Starts at squarespace.com/Tony. Try it out completely free. Just go there and play. I promise you'll enjoy it. See what it can do. No credit card required. Only if you love it. Sign up and use the coupon code Tony, and that'll save you 10%. Thanks so much, Squarespace. Bye.